Hello plant community, thanks for tuning into this channel. My name is Pam, and today you guys we're going to talk about how I care for my Philodendron Gloriosum. If you've been watching this channel for a while, you've seen how I've actually acquired this plant. The plant that I had, I believe it was a Ecuador import that I did share on the channel. And when I got the plant, it wasn't doing it well. I didn't get the plant in the best of conditions. I think due to the time that I received the shipment, it was hot. I don't know how long it was actually in the box. So the plant kind of like took a turn. And let's just take a little quick look way back when. This was over a year ago when I shared with you the condition of the plant when I first actually unboxed it with you guys. Now, as you can see, the leaves was very beautiful, massive leaves, but unfortunately, all of the leaves, in fact, were yellow, and they continued to stay yellow, and they kind of like just fell off and just died off. So now, this is what the plant looks like today, you guys. And I'm super proud of myself because I never thought the plant would come back, honestly, because I had literally no leaves to work with. But wow, this is her. I want to point out this beautiful leaf. And I'm gonna turn it around. Look at that, you guys. One of my proudest moments really as a plant parent has actually been with this plant. Now, when the leaves fell off, honestly, you guys, I was left with nothing but a stump of the plant, so to speak, like a growth point. And the root system itself, it was okay, but not probably strong. A lot of them was kind of brittle, brown, mushy, and I had to do a lot of trimming of the roots. But I didn't know what to do at that time. I knew that it wouldn't be appropriate for me to put it in some kind of planting medium. So I went the water rooting route. But with this plant, what I decided to do, which was my first time really experimenting, is I actually did a semi-hydroponic thing. And I apologize, you guys, if my voice sounds a little different. I am honestly getting over some kind of cold that I've been having, so bear with me, please. But as I was stating, I actually tried to do leca in just water, and that root system sat in, and that stump honestly stayed a stump, you guys, honestly, for extremely I say extremely long time. I honestly want to say at least 6 months before I finally saw some form of life coming out that stump, and it gave me hope. And when I realized that, okay, one leaf came out and then another leaf came out, I was able to check the root system, and it just gave me an opportunity for me to say, okay, now it's time for me to plant it up in the medium. And this is what you guys are seeing before you. So, and like I said before, as a plant parent, I am super proud of this plant. And I learned a lot of things with this plant. So let's just jump right into it. First, I want to talk about is lighting. Believe it or not, and from what I've experienced with this plant, lighting I don't think is really too big. The Gloriosum doesn't need like that bright indirect light. It can do well off of a medium light. Where I have this plant sitting is actually sitting like on a shelving unit type thing that I have in my living room, and the majority of the light, you guys, that this plant is actually receiving is several feet away from my Sansi light, and is a window that's like at least 20 feet away, but it's like a southwest facing window. And believe it or not, it's rare that I even open up the blinds in there because I don't have a lot of plants in the living room as of right now, because you know I'm a caregiver for my husband, and that's pretty much his domain, and I just want to leave his space for him right now until he gets well and get better. But anyway, so because of that, I don't really open up the blinds as much as I would in other areas of my home where I have the majority of my plants, like the sunroom, my dining room, bedroom, and things like that. So it's not really getting that much light, but the light that it is getting, it seems to be quite fine, and I wouldn't really change it. So I know now that this plant does not need that big of a light. So I would say medium indirect light to a slight bright light. Of course, you know, we want to keep in mind philodendrons don't like any direct sunlight, and I don't even know if this would be because the leaves are velvety, you guys. Honestly, I would be too afraid to even try to put this plant outside. I'm not saying that it wouldn't do well. It's just, this is my baby, and I just don't want anything to happen to it. But it's fine where it is. If it's not broke, don't fix it, right? So I just leave it there. Next thing I want to talk about is soil. I have it in this planter, and believe it or not, even though it's plastic, thank goodness, but it's not as heavy, and that's because of the planting medium that I actually have it in. I realized for most of our aeroids, as I'm going through my plant journey, that they like a little bit more area mix. They like stuff that's really grainy to really have the water just flow through. And so I kind of changed it up a little bit in regards to this because I wanted this plant to be a success. So it's less soil in here and a lot of other planting amendments, such as I have orchid bark. The majority of the base here, I can honestly say for this plant anyway, is mainly orchid bark. I have perlite, I do have some pumice, and I have soil, as well as leca balls. Now, of course, you don't need all of these. I don't think you need all of the planting mediums that I described because it just seemed like an overload. But if you really wanted to just be successful, you could stick with just one of those extra planting amendments, not mediums, amendments, and you could just do the bulk of that. So if orchid bark is what you have, use orchid bark, or pumice, or perlite, use what you have, but use it in abundance, in my personal opinion. Now, another reason why I decided to make sure that this was super coarse and extra grainy is because of the planter that I have it in, you guys. This thing is plastic, and plastic, from what I know, holds moisture a little bit more. So I was just thinking to come up with a very healthy balance in between the holding of the moisture, but yet keeping the aeration, because roots need that proper airflow in order to maintain their health, right? So that was my mindset, and that's what I went with it. So it's pretty much, I wish I could lift it up, but as y'all can see, it's very grainy. And I have a couple of rocks in there to kind of support this thing. It's top heavy, but and literally as soon as I give it a drink, it just goes through. Now let's talk about water. Of course, sometimes I do give water directly from the tap, but the majority of the water that I am giving it is from my tap, but it's usually water that I allow to let sit for at least 24 hours. That's just a routine that I have. I have several jugs of water that I constantly, fill up from the tap and just let it sit out overnight anyway before I even start using it, because I do like the water to be room temperature for not just this plant, but really all of my plants across the board. And it tends to be okay. I haven't really had any issues with the water, and I know that this soil is properly aerated because as soon as I water, it comes right through. And that's what you really want to make sure, that for philodendrons, and particularly in this one too, it really likes to be nice and flush. So I do make sure that I do that as well. Humidity real quick. Humidity is, I don't even have a humidifier in my home. The only humidifier I actually have is just the humidifier that I have over here. And that's because the humidity in here, because I have heaters running and everything to try to maintain the temperature in this room, especially during the winter time, the humidity can get very low, usually around the 20 percentile. But inside my home, and I think it comes from probably being able to use the actual kitchen more, when it's cold, you guys, we're probably doing the majority of our cooking in-house during the winter months, as far as baking, using the oven more and things like that. And so it does keep the humidity up, I think, a little bit more in my house. So inside my house, if I had to range it, it's between maybe like a 41-ish to 45-ish percentile as far as humidity. So I would say average humidity, this plant is not really big on humidity. And I don't know if the light is changing, it's just that the sun is like really coming in, and it looks like it's changing the direction of the light that you guys are seeing. At least for me, I'm sorry, but if it's changing, that's the reason why. Okay, so pest, For me, one of the common pests that I have across the board with all my philodendrons, and I try to be mindful of, is actually spider mites. And I may have came across in the earlier stage of me growing this plant, maybe when it was like 2 leaves or 3 leaves in, I had one issue where I did see spider mites, and you know, this is my baby. I didn't really want anything to happen to it, so I do my best to try to stay up on my pest management. So basically what I do, you guys, is I don't want to, the plant is starting to get a little bit big, so sometimes it's getting a little bit more challenging to do what I do more frequently. But I can honestly say, for the most part, when I do water this plant, I give it a spray down at the same time. So I'm taking it literally to my kitchen sink, and I'm using the sprayer as much as I can. Now, as you can see, this plant is, look at that. This plant is super huge now at this point, and it's starting to outgrow my kitchen sink. So I think at some point I will probably have to just go ahead and put this baby in my bathroom and give it a spray down. I have a little power wash spray that I use to spray down my plants from time to time, and this is just one of them. And I make sure I spray in particularly in between here, because this is where the spider mites love to have a party, right here in the in-betweens and the undersides of the leaves. So I definitely make sure I spray it down, and I let it air dry sometimes, and then sometimes I will try to you know, wipe it down with a paper cloth or something like that. I do also use neem oil. But one of the things that I'm starting to notice is I want to switch it up. I don't want to try to use it, because at first, you guys, honestly, I was using like neem oil, insecticidal soap and everything every time I rinse the plant off. And it dawned on me that it's a possibility that these plants could possibly get immune to it if I do it all the time, and it builds a resistance, and then all the things that I'm buying for the plant, it would never work, right? So I didn't want to do that. So I'm doing these things as far as neem oil or maybe insecticidal soap sparingly, you guys. But I think the majority, the main thing is to make sure you just spray down your leaves, because water probably will be your best bet as a preventative measure. Now, of course, you know, if you have the spider mites, then you need to get into action. Excuse me, and at that point you need to use probably insecticidal soap would be my go-to. But if it's really a huge, I'm so sorry, infestation, then I probably would go with maybe an insecticide, and that's if you're into not, you know, caring whether or not if you're using actual chemicals versus natural. But it's up to you, whatever works for you. Now, also too, my care tips, you guys, please keep in mind, care tips are, you know, you want to try to probably make changes to it depending on your particular growing situation, the lighting that you have availability, the number of windows, your lighting access that you have, the water, you know, all these things we want to keep in mind. Even maybe the humidity, because I don't know if it's going to take, if a lower humidity situation, if it would matter or not. But so far so good. This plant has been doing just fine. Now, as far as propagation, haven't really propagated the plant in regards to cutting it and trying to reroot it. But what I did do, you guys, is, let's see, you won't be able to see. Oh, y'all probably can see. You see how I have, this thing is too heavy for me to hold. Let's see. I'll try my best. I have like this stem right here, and then it's another, oh, this thing is heavy, stem right here. So it's actually 2 stems. It was a 1 stem crawler, and it got to a point where it reached the end of this pot. I was in a dilemma. I didn't quite know what to do. Should I cut it or try to encourage it to wrap around? And I was too afraid to try to encourage it to wrap around in fear that it would snap. So I decided, let me just take a look at the root system and see what was going on. And it just so happened that the root system was robust and strong enough and plentiful of it where I was able to actually cut it. And so now I have it where 1 stem is crawling this way, and this stem right here is crawling in this opposite direction. Now, what the heck will I do once they reach Here, I'm not sure because I do not plan on getting a longer base for this unless I decide I want to use it as a styling technique in my home. Then I probably would get a larger base. But outside of that, I don't think I want to make it any longer than that. But this plant is, pretty beautiful, pretty gorgeous. I mean, what y'all think? I just love this plant so much, and I'm just so glad I have it in my collection. And I just want to share. It's just been growing nonstop too. In the wintertime, it has not stopped growing. And if y'all can see, y'all see right here, that's a growth point for this one, and there's one right here as well. So this plant is loving what I'm doing. And yeah, I have these bamboo sticks, which really isn't that good with trying to hold this plant up, but it's a conversational piece. People who enter my home, they really admire this plant. So yeah, that's pretty much what I can say. So don't give up on your plants. That's one lesson that I've learned about this beautiful plant, is even when it's down, let's just give it our all and see what we're able to accomplish from it. But man, I just love this plant so but this pretty much wraps this video up. I hope it was some help, you guys, and I hope that you will be able to get something beneficial out of it. I think I forgot. I just want to pinpoint a little bit. I don't know if I made a mention of it because my mind is all over the place, guys. As I said, I'm trying to get over this cold. I don't know. But anyway, when you do water it, make sure this is bone dry, completely dry. So if I had to gauge it right now, I'm watering this thing at least once every 2 weeks. So roughly twice a month. But I definitely make sure it's completely dry. And the reason why it's taken me a long time for me to actually water is because of the plastic container. But yeah, that's it, you guys. Keep in mind, if you love foliage as much as I do, you love listening to planting things, subscribe if you haven't, push those thumbs up, you guys. Comment below if you have this plant, if it's been easy care for you. If you've had any issues or struggling with this plant, please, I love to hear from you. Maybe I can offer some kind of tips or some form of help for your plant babies. But enjoy your day wherever you are in the world. And until next time, guys, much love. Bye. Oh, man. Dang. Okay.